Welcome back to my channel. I am ThrillRecap. Today I am going to explain the drama, romance movie, named Forrest Gump, released in the year 1994. The movie is about Forrest, a man with low IQ, recounts the early years of his life when he found himself in the middle of key historical events. All he wants now is to be reunited with his childhood sweetheart, Jenny. But before we begin, beware of the spoilers. The film opens in 1981 at a bus stop in Savannah, Georgia. It begins with a feather falling to the feet of a man named Forrest Gump. Forrest picks up the feather and puts it in the book Curious George, then tells the story of his life to a woman seated next to him. From here, we get to acknowledge that Forrest Gump recounts his life story to strangers who happen to sit next to him on the bench. The listeners at the bus stop change regularly throughout his narration, with each showing a different attitude ranging from disbelief and indifference to rapt veneration. Forrest Gump begins to eat a bar of chocolate. He offers it to the woman sitting next to him at the bus stop. Thinking of him as a strange lunatic, she rolls her eyes and does not respond. Forrest Gump says, "I can eat 1.5 million chocolates in a day." On not making good terms with the woman, Forrest begins observing her white shoes. He compliments her shoes and tells her he thinks the shoes are very comfortable. The lady keeps getting creeped out by him, but this time she responds. She tells Forrest her shoes were killing her feet. Trying to carry a conversation, Forrest Gump tells the anonymous woman that he has put on many shoes throughout his life. He tells her that he still remembers the first worn shoes of his life if he racks his brain. The story opens in the flashback where Forrest Gump is a child. He is seen in the clinic of a doctor where he is being put on the special type of shoes having the fixed steel rods. The doctor says he has a curvature of the spine while his feet are strong. The doctor consoles him as he's stressed out with his diagnosis. Doctor tells him to not take tension as he will make everything better and will help him get back on track. Following that day, Forrest Gump's mother takes him out. She advises him that he should never allow anyone to lay a finger on you for your conditions just because he was born perfect. Being supportive of Forrest's condition, she tells her that God could create all children's feet like you, but he did, not because he wanted you to be more special than everybody else around you. We are shown that Forrest Gump had gotten his name after a distant relative whom his mother had attachment in the past. We peek through Forrest's life as a boy in 1956. Despite having a life of a disabled person, where he is fitted with leg braces to correct a curved spine, he is brilliant and very well managed. Forrest Gump has an IQ of 75. He lives alone with his mother in Greenbow, Alabama, who encourages him to live beyond his disabilities. She runs a boarding house. Among their temporary tenants is a young Elvis Presley, who would play the guitar for Forrest and incorporate the boy's jerky dance movements into his performances. Presley was not a popular singer back then, or even if he wasn't praised as much. And definitely was not a big deal. Forrest Gump dances awkwardly when Elvis sings his song and plays his guitar. They also find Presley's dancing moves very strange. As few days pass by, Forrest and his mother happen to pass through a grocery market where they watch the same Elvis Presley singing on the big screen. The two get stunned to realize a celebrity had visited them. Forrest happily tales this story to Jenny when he meets her at school. Forrest Gump's mother desires the best education for her son, so she takes him in a standardized school, but the principal says this kid cannot be admitted to this school. On being questioned about the reason, he makes excuses such as kid having a low IQ level. The principal was being irrational. He did not want to see a disabled kid studying in his school. On realizing what the principal had hinted, Forrest Gump's mother fights for her son and demands for her son's rights of being treated equally with other students. Forrest's mother wanted her son to study in the school of normal children and was willing to go to any extent if she gets provoked. Principal stays strong with his biasness and tells Forrest's mother that her son does not meet the criteria of his school. He asks the mother to get her son enrolled in school for children with special need, indirectly telling that her son needs to go to a disabled children's school. Forrest's mother, however, does not succeed in convincing the principal. Forrest Gump has got admission to a standardized school. No one offers him a seat on the bus on the very first day. There is a little girl who asks him would like to sit here, and she makes a seat for Forrest Gump. This girl's name was Jenny. On his first day of school, Forrest finds that Jenny Curran was his classmate, whose life is followed in parallel to Forrest's at times. So, the two become best friends. Jenny and Forrest love eloping in the woods and develop a habit of meeting each other in the woods. They would wander and explore. One day, the two were playing in the woods. 3 kids come after them who attack Forrest Gump by throwing a stone on his head, while restoring rock hits Forrest Gump mostly on the head. Forrest gets hurt badly and starts to bleed from his head. Those kids tell Forrest Gump that he is just a dysfunctional fool as they toss more rocks at him. Jenny starts to panic and tells Forrest to run away from the boys. As Forrest runs away, those bullies chase after him on their bicycles. As he starts running, his speed increases gradually and his fitted leg braces begin to break. He gradually increases his running speed. He runs so fast that even the bullies on bicycles fail to chase him. That day, running for his life, Forrest Gump realizes that he had been gifted with the ability to run faster. He could run faster than any of his classmates. Bullied because of his leg braces and dim-witted appearance, Forrest flees from a group of children. But when his braces break off, he is revealed as a fast runner. With this talent, he receives a football scholarship at the University of Alabama in 1962, where he is coached by Bear Bryant, becomes a top kick returner, and is named to the All-American team and meets President John F. Kennedy at the White House. In his first year at college, he witnesses Governor George Wallace's stand in the schoolhouse door and returns a dropped book to Vivian Malone Jones, one of the students admitted over state resistance. After graduating college in 1966, Forrest enlisted in the U.S. Army and later gets posted to Vietnam. During basic training, he befriends a black fellow soldier named Benjamin Buford Blue, nicknamed Bubba, who convinces Forrest to go into the shrimping business with him once their purpose in the war was served. Later that year, they were sent to Vietnam, serving with the 9th Infantry Division in the Mekong Delta region under Lieutenant Dan Taylor. After months of routine operations, their platoon is ambushed while on patrol, and Bubba is killed in action. Forrest saves several wounded platoon mates and Lieutenant Dan, who loses both his legs. Taylor is embittered to have been saved by Forrest. He would rather have died in combat like ancestors before him. But he is returned to the United States. Forrest is awarded the Medal of Honor for his heroism by President Lyndon B. Johnson. At an anti-war march on the Pentagon rally, Forrest meets Abby Hoffman and briefly reunites with Jenny, who has become a drug-addicted hippie and anti-war activist. He also develops a talent for ping pong and becomes a sports celebrity competing against Chinese teams in ping pong diplomacy, earning him an interview alongside John Lennon of the Beatles on the Dick Cavett Show. He appears to influence Lennon's song, Imagine. Forrest spends 1972 New Year's Eve in New York City with Lieutenant Dan, who has become an alcoholic, still bitter about his disability and the government's apathy towards Vietnam vets. Forrest's ping pong success eventually leads to a meeting with President Richard Nixon. For this event, he is given a room in the Watergate complex, where he unwittingly exposes the Watergate scandal. Discharged from the army, Forrest returns to Greenbow and endorses a company that makes ping pong paddles. Earning him $25,000, he uses the earnings to buy a shrimping boat in Bayou La Batter, fulfilling his promise to Bubba. Lieutenant Dan joins Forrest in 1974, and they initially have little success. After their boat becomes the only one to survive Hurricane Carmen, they pull in huge amounts of shrimp and create the profitable Bubba Gump Shrimp Company. Lieutenant Dan finally thanks Forrest for saving his life. Dan invests in what Forrest thinks is some kind of fruit company, and the two become millionaires. Forrest gives half of his earnings to Bubba's family for having inspired the shrimping venture. Forrest returns home to his mother and cares for her during her terminal illness from cancer. In 1976, Jenny, recovering from years of drugs and abuse, returns to visit Forrest. He proposes to her, and that night, she tells Forrest she loves him, and the two make love. But she leaves the next morning. Heartbroken, Forrest goes running for no particular reason and spends the next 3 years in a relentless cross-country marathon, becoming famous for another feat before returning to Greenbow. Scenes cut back to the present day in 1981, where Forrest reveals that he is waiting at the bus stop because he received a letter from Jenny, who asked him to visit her. Forrest is finally reunited with Jenny, who introduces him to their young son, whom she named Forrest Gump Jr. Jenny tells Forrest she is sick with an unknown virus. Probably HIV, though this is never definitively stated. Together the three move back to Greenbow. Jenny and Forrest finally marry, but she dies a year later. The wedding is attended by Lieutenant Dan, who now has prosthetic legs and a fiancée. Unfortunately, Jenny dies soon afterward. The film ends with father and son waiting for the school bus on little Forrest Jr.'s very first day of school. As his son opens the book that he was taking to school, the white feather from the beginning of the movie is seen to fall from within the pages. As the bus pulls away, the white feather is caught on a breeze and drifts skyward. To watch many more exciting recaps like this, don't forget to subscribe and like this video. And let us know in the comments section about the next favorite movie that you would like us to recap. Until then, stay safe, stay well, and thanks for watching.